We are only talking about the existence of God because we are in a culture and a time where that is important.
Right.
Where believing in God is the norm, where it's relevant. In a different time or place, the question, does God exist, wouldn't even matter. People.
Okay, but in this one, it should matter. In another one, it wouldn't matter. But in this one, I mean, given how so many people believe in this idea, even though just given the nature of the history and the environment they grew up in, so AP is acknowledging that they believe in something that wouldn't have mattered at all in different circumstances, right? So why wouldn't AP be worried about people believing in something so passionately about something that wouldn't matter to them if they grew up differently? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that should be that's a concern. I think that's a concern that people have this much emotional investment into something that he himself thinks doesn't even matter. So yeah, Apostate Prophet, it doesn't matter to you, but aren't you worried that this matters? So this God concept that you yourself don't think it's real, don't you think it's a concern that this many people are so emotionally invested in it? Is that not a source of concern?
People would wonder why we are talking about this. Even when we are talking about the one God, who is the creator, the shape, the nature, the purpose of this God has changed from time to time and is different between different religions.
Okay,
he
so
has a response.
oh, he has a response. Okay.
AP is saying, of course, my point is that it shouldn't matter. It is an irrelevant question we ask each other. God should not matter. Listen further. No,
Okay,
we're getting there. Clearly, this
we're
is how
getting there.
Armin does it.
Yeah, this is how. But then okay, so but then you're an anti-theist, then, Apostate Prophet. Okay.
No, he said so before. He just doesn't
Yeah.
really participate in it.
All right, but anti-theism is not. Anti-theism is basically saying that God shouldn't matter, and the fact that God matters to a whole bunch of people, and us trying to go from God mattering to a whole bunch of people to a world where God doesn't matter to a whole bunch of people is basically anti-theism.
It changes from Judaism to Christianity. It changes from Christianity to Islam massively. In Hinduism, the creator God is a completely different being and doesn't carry the same importance or the same attention. In many East Asian religions, God is not a person, but rather just a force. In Buddhism, there is no eternal creator. In some of these religions, the creator is a conscious, very powerful, independent being that has power over everything. Whereas in other religions, this force or this God is impacted by humans and by beings. In some religions, this God is worshipped, whereas in other religions, he's not worshipped or doesn't have to be worshipped. So when I'm asked, does God exist? Then I think about the biblical one God. But if I thought more universally, then I would say, what do you mean by does God exist? What is God? And why is this question relevant? I think this even puts me into a more peaceful position regarding God, since I'm not out there to fight God. So long story short, I'm certain and I don't believe in one God.
Okay, here's the thing. Like, I think AP knows this. I'm not gonna deign to say that our prophet is stupid. But I'm not fighting. We're not fighting God because we can't fight something that doesn't exist. We're fighting false beliefs and the flawed epistemologies that lead people to invest their lives and sacrifice pleasures in the only life that they have because of these false beliefs and flawed methodologies of determining what is true and reflected in objective reality.
I think fighting God is the way that Christians phrase what we're doing, right?
Wait.
We're not.
Are we revealing his secret Christian jihad? No. AP is saying, be careful if you're about to disagree with me.
Guys,
he's not in his Medinan phase yet. He's not in his Medinan phase yet.
We're not afraid because we're still in the Mecca phase of the Apostate Prophet, right? We'll be worried once you move to the Medini phase, right? But again,
I'm terrified.
No, I think that I think fighting God is the way that. So the interesting thing is that Muslims don't phrase it like that because a lot of Muslims think it's even just even uttering the word of fighting God is giving too much credit to people like us. I mean, I don't know. There's a law in Iran that says waging war against Allah. So I guess they do say that. But I heard it mostly from Christians who say like fighting God. And like, no, we're fighting belief in God.
Yeah.
Right? And to us, that matters because belief in God, as the apostate himself admits, it doesn't make any sense, right? Belief in God doesn't make any sense, and this wouldn't matter to people. So I think the criticism I have is Apostate Prophet keeps switching between him saying God doesn't matter to him to God asking whether there's a God or not in general is not an important question, okay? Because if God doesn't matter to him, okay, well, yeah, that's great. That's what we're fighting for, a world where that's the case for most people. And I just want to know, how is it possible for you thinking God is not an important thing that people should believe in, like that you don't believe in, and you're not concerned about living in a world where most of the planet is passionately invested in something so irrelevant. So you yourself, so he keeps switching between God is irrelevant, God shouldn't matter, and then therefore this question shouldn't matter. I mean, the most of the planet believes in this and is passionately making decisions based on this whole concept being real. So just because it's a ridiculous idea, that doesn't mean it's not an idea that we need to be concerned about.
He's saying, if God doesn't exist, why do atheists exist? Big brain, think about it. And then we live in a world.
Yeah,
you got me on that one, AP.
But okay, yeah, dad vibes, Fatima. Dad vibes are hella sure. Yes, I think AP is making dad jokes because he's like becoming more of a dad than before. So that's why the dad jokes.
He's twice the daddy.
Twice the daddy.
I understand what he's saying though. Yeah, I understand the claim that he's making that question doesn't actually matter. Whether we're talking about ontologically or epistemologically, it doesn't matter and it shouldn't matter. But because so many people are fighting about this question, about what the answer to this question is, and we're suffering for it, it does matter. So we have, yes, we are forced to use our resources on something that shouldn't matter, but it does matter for sociological reasons. And that's the main problem. And so hopefully in the world, 200 years down in the future, that's way too optimistic, 2,000 years in the future, maybe then that question will no longer matter, but it matters now. And so anti-theism.
It matters a lot to me because I talk to children who are being abused viciously. I have to see the evidence of it justified by this belief.
Right.
So
It might
really
actually
matters
matter.
to me.
It actually might even matter as a teaching mechanism if we're trying to teach children how to understand things properly and how to learn how to know things. We can actually provide that, does a God exist? Well, okay, what is the evidence for them? And so they can actually learn the steps of proper logic. Maybe it might matter in that instance.
Okay, AP is clarifying. My statement is only whether it philosophically, existentially matters or not. Okay. Whether it matters to society is a different matter.
Okay, but the fact that but that is anti-theism. Anti-theism is not that. But philosophically, it only matters because so many people believe in it. I mean, you don't feel. I guess philosophically. I mean, do you philosophically go consider ideas that nobody believes in? I guess you do. So yeah, fine. But anti-theism only requires you to be worried about, how the societal impact of an idea. Anti-theism is about pushing people to a place where God doesn't matter. Right? Anyways.
I think he's
I don't
said
actually
in
want-
discussion with you before that he agrees completely with anti-theism. He just doesn't really push it himself.
Yes, and he's not saying that other people should. I just wish. Okay, so he says that he doesn't push it. He does say he likes other people questioning God. He likes other people questioning God. Even though he's kind of doing anti-theism, right? But sometimes he also suggests that he doesn't see the point. But the point is, so many. We'll see. Let's see if he says it here.
He's saying, forget about it. Let's discuss this on a stream.
Okay. What? All right.
To spread the idea that God doesn't exist. And when it comes to the one God, then I am certainly an atheist. I don't believe that he exists. But if we want to talk about a force in the universe or whatever you mean, then I will say it doesn't really matter. And you and I are both equally ignorant. It doesn't matter what you are or what I am. But okay,
it doesn't matter because your God is basically the God that you believe in, the deistic God, is very, 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 very close to a God that doesn't even exist. Okay, so this God doesn't even matter whether it's real or not. It's because it's indistinguishable for a God that doesn't exist. But again, just because it doesn't matter, that doesn't mean that your belief in it doesn't matter. Okay, again, it's very possible that there's a definition of a God that you cannot disprove or prove, and this God does not matter. And the fact that this God doesn't matter doesn't mean that people being convinced 100% that this God is real, it doesn't translate to the fact that that doesn't matter, right?
I think, and AP, correct me if I'm wrong in what you're saying, but is this sort of the same mentality of if a hypothesis is unfalsifiable, we shouldn't really care that much about it? So in the same way that we don't really care about whether or not we live in a simulation, because as far as we're concerned, we only have mathematical arguments. We can't really come up with an actual testing mechanism to determine that. It's the same thing with God, so we really shouldn't be too concerned about it.
That's a very good, actually, Vince, that's a very good example, okay? So let's say that somebody says, we live in a matrix, like we live in a simulation, right? And they come up with the way a simulation that we exist in, and they claim, they have this claim that there's no way to prove that they're right. But let's say they carefully constructed in a way that there's also no way to disprove that they're right, okay? So yes, they come up with this theory that we're all brains and vats, and they very careful, their argument is so airtight that there's no way for me to disprove them that they're wrong, okay? So I will tell them, like, okay, listen, I cannot disprove that what you're telling me is wrong, but given that your claim is indistinguishable from a world that your claim is not real, like it's like there's no way for us to prove or disprove your claim, we shouldn't be taking it seriously because it's indistinguishable from the world, from saying that this world is real and we live in a real world and that we're not brains and math. So it doesn't matter, okay? You can say it doesn't matter, but if all of a sudden this person who had made a claim that cannot be proven or disproven is now convinced that we're living in matrix or we're brains and bats, he's like, beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm convinced. You're saying, like, dude, it doesn't matter which one it is, they're indistinguishable. But now he himself is convinced, and he's like, I need to break out of the system. We need to kick, we're brains and vats. I need to somehow get out of this vat. We need to like do something about it. Like now, all of a sudden matters. Okay, the idea itself shouldn't matter, but now that this person is convinced about an idea without any evidence, and now it's getting other people to be convinced about this idea without any evidence, now all of a sudden it becomes an issue. So you see how the idea not mattering doesn't translate to people believing in it not mattering. These are two separate things, and I think sometimes a lot of people jump from the idea not mattering to all of a sudden concluding to also we shouldn't be fighting it. Well, we should be fighting it because so many people believe in it. Right. Does that make
sense? It doesn't matter whether it matters.
Okay. I'm pretty sure AP the dad jokes are going to be like tripled once he has the third child.
Is it a dad joke or is it like some freaking big brain moment? Who knows?
Oh yeah, big brain
moment.
Yeah.
let me come to the
What do you think? What do you guys agree? I mean, it would be worrisome if so many people believed we're in the Matrix. 100%. They're not saying that, oh, we can't prove that we live in the Matrix, but it could be true. No, that's not what they're saying. Okay, they're saying like we are sure, 100% sure that we live in the Matrix. Where's your evidence? I don't have any evidence, but I'm 100% sure, and we need to do something about it. I'm like, okay, you guys are crazy now, and this is a problem.
topic. Why I don't believe in God.